Yeah. Let me guess.
Yes.
I think it's all across the Watchtower. Is that Jimi Hendrix?
Bob Dylan, actually, but I think Jimi Hendrix made it really, really friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
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 I'm here in London, so
I felt more Jimmy in that than Bob Dylan. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that was definitely Jimmy.
And that's where, for better or worse, that's where Hendrix got popular and where he became somebody was when he was in the UK.
Yeah. Nobody gave a crap about him in the US.
That's right.
He blew up here.
I love all those documentaries, and you see all these legendary rock legends from the UK and from back then, and they're talking about when they saw Hendrix on stage, and they're like, "Oh man, we're gonna all be put out of business. This guy's a freak."
Oh yeah, yeah. Pete Townsend, he was really fazed by it.
Yeah,
I first saw him and the reaction that the London scene gave. They just freaked out, and a lot of artists just wanted to give up. It was like
a lot of them were just like, "Wow, it's like
all of them.
It's like your AI PC. You just want to give up right now. Humanity's over."
Ouch.
Yeah.
It's a Jimi Hendrix moment in London. That's what it is.
It is. Yeah. Nobody cared about AI PC until I brought it here. And then, we're going to make it a thing, right? We're going to do the whole AI PC experience,
Yeah. I'm looking forward to you doing you doing a live demonstration of training an AI model on your laptop using the NPU.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That would be
and
amazing.
Call it edge computing.
Yeah.
Edge AI.
Well, yeah, let's just give new names for crap that's already existed forever. It's just people didn't know it. But hey, I had lunch, or Tom bought me lunch. He came all the way over from Bristol, right? Which I looked it up, and it's kind of far away.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice lunch at Mayfair. Is it 34?
34. Yeah.
Nice joint called 34. It was really good.
Wow.
I was totally underdressed, and he was even more underdressed, which was.
It was. I came in a backpack and a t-shirt. Hey, we got away with it, right?
You got away. They thought you were one of those young, trendy, techie guys or something like that, wearing backpacks and t-shirts.
Well, maybe that was the look I was going for.
London is a different definition of a youngy, trendy guy.
I think it's cool that Leonard and Tom, meet in London for lunch, and they go to Mayfair, because if any of us meets with Tom and he says anything about Nando, he does not care about us. Okay, so Mayfair, Park Lane, expectations have been set. I will take nothing less than lunch at Buckingham Palace with a member of the royal.
Yourself. Yeah, you
screwed
yourself.
Do you know what it was, right? I literally put quite a lot of thought into it, because I thought, right, well, I'm getting into Paddington train station, so I don't want Leonard to think that I can't be bothered to move. So I didn't want to get a restaurant near Paddington train station. And obviously I didn't want to get it too far away either. So that was the first conundrum. The second one was, well, I didn't want to go to a chain restaurant, because then it looks like I put no effort in. But then I don't want to spend hundreds of pounds, right? Yeah. So I was like, what do I do? And actually 34 was pretty reasonable, although we laughed that it was modular in the sense that it was a set menu, but really it wasn't set, because then you had to add the sides
Not
anyway.
so set. Yeah, it was set with a lot of options, which is basically a menu.
You thought you were doing the Pre Fixe thing, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But they got me in the end,
by when you
Is
buy
it
your
like buying
first
your
death
Porsche?
kit.
What's
You
that?
buy a
Thing?
So
Porsche?
yeah, yeah, we talked. We had latency issue. Yeah. So, of course, Mark makes the most ironic comment in all the universe by saying, "Hey, Tom's tall."
Huh? That is the most ironic comment in the
Yeah.
universe.
I mean, I don't think Mark should ever use the word tall to refer to anyone else. He should just say, "Hey, you're not as short as I thought."
Yeah,
You know?
that's right.
I mean, if anybody has stood next to that guy, you know what it feels to be short. But yeah, Tom's a pretty big guy. Yeah,
There you go.
that was, I think the first impression was literally, hey, you look a hell of a lot bigger than your thumbnail, right? I mean, that was like the mutual revelation.
I am correcting Leonard for our American audience. You mean tall, because when we say big guy, we mean something completely different. So
I see.
Tall.
I'm probably a bit of both anyway, to be fair, you know. But
I wasn't going to
thank
say
you.
anything, but I saw the picture.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Well, yeah, he's not a lightweight, you know. He's not a lightweight. That's fine, you know. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
But
Leonard, are you over there making excuses for us for tomorrow?
yeah.
What is going on in London?
Well, we kicked the Brits out some years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
On that note, I'll get my coat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Get
I'm
your
here
red-
to
get your red
research
coat.
what it. Yeah. I'm here to research how Brits celebrate the 4th, which is basically, I don't know, it's sarcastic, right? A bit.
Yeah.
I went to a couple of public houses and I saw their 4th celebrations, and they do have them because
Really?
there are a lot of Americans. Yeah, there are a lot of American, U.S. folks here, folks from the United States. So
Okay.
they have these things, but I think there's quite a bit of sarcasm sprinkled onto the event.
That's very British of them to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
That's a humor, which I appreciate, you know. So my guidance to anyone who is in Great Britain on July the 3rd is you need to go to St. Pancras, you need to get on the Eurostar, and you need to go to Paris immediately, to France, the home of democracy. And our buddies who helped us. Yes, they were nice at once, you know, and they were helpful and friendly and everything, you know. Anyway, in that and I've actually done that, you know. I remember like several years ago, I was in London, my wife and I, because our relatives had done an M&A deal and we're living in St. John's Woods, actually. And so we were hanging out with them at their fabulous house there. Oh my God, that's a nice neighborhood. And then, yeah, we got on the Eurostar and made sure we were in Paris before the sun came up on July the 4th. And so there you have it, folks. Yeah.
I've never been able to attend it, but in Denmark, on the highest hill, I wouldn't call it a mountain, in Denmark, they have a 4th of July celebration every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Who knew?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they celebrate it everywhere.
50 years, I think, at least.
Oh, interesting. Like, why would anybody in another country care about America for any reason? It's weird.
It's arranged by the Danish-American Relationship Society. Whatever,
Okay. I gotcha. You know, if we were doing
And also, they can sell a lot of beer. They can sell a lot of beer to Americans.
Yeah.
So
I think a much more
That's always
appropriate.
the main reason for the Danes, you know? Sell some Carlsberg.
I love it. You know, Leonard, I think if you were going to be doing real Jimi Hendrix tomorrow, you'd be pretending you're at Woodstock and.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You know, I'll ask the guy, the jam leader, hey, can we play American?
I'm assuming that you're in London, you're just out in the streets, you're busking for money, you know, to try to survive as a guitarist, you know.
Although that is a really good idea. I could just buy a bucket and flip it over and then go down to like one of the subway stations, and then just set up. Actually,
People
this
do that
thing right here. Yeah, you can play backing tracks on this, and then I have a whole rig right here. Yeah.
All right. So I expect to see in the evening news tomorrow night, disruptive American in the tube sitting there playing Jimi Hendrix national anthem for Estados Unidos, much to the horror of mild-mannered Londoners.
Yeah.
Like, what is this freak? Oh my God. What?
Thrashed.
So seriously, Leonard, why are you in London? Is there some tech event that you're at or what?
Yeah, so AWS invited me out to Silverstone, where they're going to be having the British Grand Prix. And so I'm going to be getting a whole day worth of, sessions and, tours of what AWS and Formula One are doing together on the broadcasting front, right? So, people who follow me know that I also cover media, and in my consulting background, I actually have quite an extensive amount of work that I've done in the media industry. And so, AWS is doing a lot of cool stuff. They're trying to push, broadcast, cloud broadcast. There's a lot of edge computing involved in all of this stuff, right? Because latency oftentimes matters. So it's really, really interesting. And it's also a nice adjacency to the telco stuff that I look at. So it gives you a lot of perspective on how media is evolving and how it may create certain demands and opportunities on the telco side of stuff. And obviously cloud computing, right? Because AWS is trying to really bring all the cloud goodness to media. And I don't know, there's some interesting value propositions and solutions that they have been developing over the last few years. Probably a little bit more challenging than everyone thought. But I think with a lot of the edge cloud stuff really starting to take shape, especially for a lot of the hyperscalers, I think these opportunities are becoming more real and technically validated by customers. So, it's going to be interesting to see what everyone does.
You did say telco and opportunity in a single breath. So just break down the opportunity piece for the telco, other than pushing through the pipes. Let's hear it, Leonard.
Yeah. Well, so there's so here, this is, I was watching a YouTube video of Pacquiao versus Antonio Barrera, right? This is from 20 years ago. And one thing that I noticed is, like, in terms of the sports experience, right? Nothing has changed in 20 years. I mean, I can watch that footage and it looks just like how fights are covered today. And so if you're looking at what, a lot of these sports broadcasters and, and even I would say leagues and organizations are trying to do, they're trying to bring forward new experiences, new ways for fans to experience the events, the live events, but then also, to experience it again, on platforms such as YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And so, when I was at NAB, there was a lot of talk about immersive media. And, as a lot of us know, that struggled for a long time. But the Vision Pro has really made a big difference. I don't think people appreciate or understand or even know how much an impact the Vision Pro is having in the industry for a lot of reasons that are almost, I'm pretty much the only one that's talking about it.
You're the only one who's saying anything nice about the Vision Pro lately. There's been a flurry of articles in the last week that Vision Pro is dead.
Right. If you look at it purely from a consumer perspective, but you always have to have the content first, right? And so, a sport like F1, let's say that they up their game and start to incorporate immersive media technologies into their broadcasting, and also that format. Think about the premium experiences that they can deliver, especially to a device like the Vision Pro, right? And if you want to get seats in, huh?
I'm an avid Formula One fan. Okay, and
then you must want to kill me.
Also, given what happened in recent years, I'm about to give up. But anyway, this aside, I think that there's one first thing that the media could do on Formula One is actually make the not live experience better. Because most of the people, you can't, because it's worldwide, watch all the races live. So I can understand this Vision Pro immersion kind of things. But by the way, if by any chance you meet Leonard, somebody who has a connection to the F1 TV app, I want the contact information. Because the people responsible for the design of this application are the biggest freaking moron imbeciles that have no clue about the sport that I would meet in my life. This app.
Why don't you send me some bullet points, some recommendations?
I can if you. This app is awful. It's basically the live experience recorded in a sequence that you can watch. So, I mean, if you don't want a spoiler alert, you need to be extremely, extremely careful. So it's very so. But my point is that be able to relive a live show when you cannot attend live because it's happening at 2 a.m. in the morning seems to be a much more interesting use case to me than giving Vision Pros to a very tiny portion of the fans that can afford it so they can see more. So
I mean, obviously. Yeah. I mean, that's, I don't know, in my opinion.
Dimitri's here like, I'm surrounded by freaking idiots.
Freaking idiots.
Oh, yes, that's true. No, but this one is the king. He's their boss. He's the one that everybody called him boss. So
yeah. But, I mean, a lot of what we're going to be, I assume that I'm going to be witnessing or learning about are some of the more progressive things that Formula One's going to be doing, right? I mean, there's no reason for them to invite us out just to show a bunch of mundane stuff.
By the way,
right?
Beside media, I think Amazon there's two other areas where tech has a big impact beside media in F1 is obviously all the predictions that it can do because there's a massive amount of data. And by the way, I don't know if you know that, but F1 makes most of the data available, so not at necessarily the high fidelity that the teams have, but you can actually go on the website and download all those data sets from the race and the recording. So there's an interesting side of element of there. And then obviously there is all the digital twin technologies that the teams use themselves, which you're probably not going to learn more because it's kind of a very high intellectual property. But there are those three areas where tech has significantly impacted F1. So it's a very high-tech sport in software as well.
Yeah, and it's not all about data in terms of like analytics. Some of it is just being able to have a telemetry to enable new, production capabilities.
Yeah, but this is all. I mean, this is all new. Telemetry, telemetry existed in F1 for like decades.
No, it is, but it's not necessarily old for media. So if you saw some of the things at the NAB show, what they're doing with, let's say, scene core, let's say hybrid, or call it
hybrid cloud,
AR, scene composition. It's actually very, 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 very sensor driven. Just because you're trying to blend digital stuff with the physical environment, and you need to have sensors that can do an immense amount of precision tracking to make everything look professional, right? And it has to be real time. And it's a very localized application, but it's an example of how some call it critical categories of IoT could enable some really cool innovations in on the media front. Okay.
Yeah, on this front, I would agree, because it is true that in the recent 2-3 years, the amount of data that is injected in the live show, superimpose on the car with kind of the metrics on when they are braking, what is the G forces, what is the speed. There's been a lot of progress on that, definitely. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah, and then just really quickly, one of the revolutions that I think we're going to see coming down the pike with the Vision Pro and all the production pipelines that they're starting to build out, right, is live broadcast in say immersive video. Once you do that, dude, it's friggin' ridiculous, because right now you can't do that because you have to go and there's this whole manual workflow that's completely non-automated to compose the content. You can't do it live. But see, this is the thing that what you can do with your iPhone 15 camera with spatial video. You can record basically stuff live because it does all the processing right on device in real time. That didn't exist before. So that's a pretty big freaking deal.
So Leonard, some of the announcement earlier on was like ESPN was working with, was that Meta at the time or whatever, and I'm assuming there's something with the Vision Pro too. Have you tried any of those immersive experiences, especially in the sports world? And is it real, or is it just still in development?
I think in terms of the content is real. Being able to do it live broadcast, being able to produce it for live broadcast, that isn't real. Yeah, because you had to compose. You had to get you had to get two files and then friggin' stitch the crap together. It's a manual process. There was no automation. Apple solved that problem. That is the big deal that no one talks about. That is the big fucking friggin' deal, right?
Because I can see with Formula One, Dimitri, you go on the actual live Formula One, or do you just watch it on TV? Because I mean, that could be interesting to be able to switch places if instead of going at a Formula One event where you can only see it from one angle, right? If you can then kind of just say, I want to see it here, I want to go over there, I want to go there, to kind of see that.
It was part of the vision of Liberty Media when they created the F1 app. So the answer is I always watch through the F1 app. Now, you don't have the choices of angles of view yet, but you do have several feeds. So you have a data feed, you have a race position on the map feed, and you have a kind of the live feed that you see. So, I mean, there is potential, but it's just the implementation is not made thinking, okay, I have somebody who's going to watch the weekend remote and asynchronously, which is my use case, basically. When I can watch live, I watch live. But when because of time difference, and then the experience is poor.
And see, that's the other thing. If you've ever seen some of these, like the PGA golf app, to be able to see the track and all the cars running around in real time
on the golf course,
for the live, that would be cool. And even with the replay, that would be awesome, right? And then you can watch the whole race and see all the elements, racing around the track, and then you see all the statistics, the telemetry, blah blah blah, the commentary. I mean, that's a different experience. And imagine what you do with boxing. You'd have like sweat flying at you.
I want sweat flying at me.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I want the haptic feedback. I want to feel it hit me in the that's
the Pete. He didn't say a single word.
He got so bored with this conversation. He's like, I am so out of here. I don't even know where I am.
So the F1 teams, right? So we did some work with F1, and it's actually a really interesting story. If you look at the history of Bernie Ecclestone, and for good or for bad, right, about F1 and the rights, etc. But a couple of years ago, they bought the rights back in to start delivering direct to consumer, like pay to play streams, right? So helmet cams and other bits and pieces, and they're actually quite advanced. If you look at the overlays and what they've done as a business compared to, say, I don't know, like the soccer industry or whatever, right? It's just not quite as good as F1. So F1 they're a good unit. There's a guy that runs it. It's called Pete Samara. He's been there for years, but they're actually, they know what they're doing. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's weird because we could totally see Leonard like getting dressed or getting ready. He's getting his hair done and stuff like that in the mirror. This is stuff that nobody was asking for when they tuned in to this show.
Yeah, we don't need to see that.
I mean, you were asking for sweat flying at you, though. So I don't know. I said, what you do in your own time is up to you.
So, Tom,
right?
tell me, is the phenomenon like when I'm over in
freaking mirrors in here?
Yeah, when I'm over there in Britain and I'm watching the telly and the news, and I still see guys doing the news, but they're actually reading the newspapers from somebody else, and they're in today's London Times. It's blah blah blah. Is that still a thing?
I don't know if we do. No, I don't think we do that. I think that's like.
I remember I've seen that happen a lot in the past, where it's like
you're on oldversion.com.
Their whole show is basically, we don't have any of our own content, and we're just going to read all the tabloids and the newspapers.
No, they do that. Yeah. So that's a Saturday morning and Sunday morning thing.
Okay.
So that's like Sunday morning breakfast, and they'll go through like, we call them red tops, right? Okay. So it's kind of like the kind of cheesy newspapers. But they'll go through the broadsheets as well, so the Telegraph and Times, etc. But
I miss the excitement of, but I also miss the excitement and thrill of seeing Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain.
Well, he got kicked off, right?
I think
the reason why they do that is quite interesting, actually, because it kind of links back to AI in a way, right? Because if you go on, say, Feedly.com or you have some AI news aggregator, it doesn't necessarily show or share the opinion of the journalist, right? So why people are interested is because the journalist has written it for the newspaper, and it's a news correspondent's opinion on the journalist. And clearly it still works. Otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But if you just wanted to consume the news, then you'd just get an RSS feed or you'd just read it or whatever, right? So yeah, they still do it. It does feel terribly old-fashioned, and they've got a cup of tea, of course.
Of course. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to do that now. I don't have my own content, and I'm going to have my tea. It's actually coffee. And here's some news from somebody else. That's like a really good link bait headline, right?
Who wrote that?
ZDNet.
Yeah.
Hey kids, if you're trying to write content for the internet that gets people to click, this is a good example. If Intel can't come up with a Qualcomm killer soon, it's game over for x86 PCs. It's over.
Yeah. How many views does it have, or how many reads?
I don't know. It's not
12.
Guys they'll be eating their words.
Yeah.
In about 3 months.
But there's like a manual that you have to read and a special course you need to go to learn how to write content that the content actually doesn't matter. Just make sure the headline is clicky.
Clickbait, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. It's game over for x86 PCs. Intel is about to go out of business. And remember, folks, don't take anything we say seriously. This is not a recommendation for stock picking or anything.
Not the disclaimer. You doing it now?
It kind of happened as we read that and Intel under the bus. So,
an observation, and then I have another question for Leonard. But if you're still watching shows where a journalist is reading from, magazine, it's a good thing because there's a journalist who can still read, not like other people that we call journalists. And that's another story, right? At least people could read. Leonard, and maybe also to Dimitri, this whole thing of tech and media to deliver a new fan experience, new feeds, I want to hear from you guys if this, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to gambling and micro gambling. If the experience that we're talking about is that in F1, I have so many feeds and I have a Vision Pro that I can make a micro bet on turn 3 at Silverstone that Sainz is going to pass Hamilton, or that in boxing, the next punch will be a left hook versus a right. This sort of thing that continues to develop. And I tell you where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I'm a baseball fan my entire life. It's been legal to gamble on the outcome of baseball for, long time. But not until recently, we have the big gambling companies that are in deals with Major League Baseball, like the wolf inside the chicken coop. And I cannot help but to think that this is where things are going. So I don't know if you have any reaction to this whole gambling and new experiences in sports, because it's a lot.
It's part of it, but what I'm talking about is a little bit different from the gaming aspect. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of company. I mean, Microsoft is even in there to a certain degree, at least providing the frameworks for the micro that would support things like micro betting. Because I mean, think about like Xbox, you know, and a lot of the gaming frameworks, it just completely perfect for that stuff.
Or it's a gamble every time you boot up Windows 11.
But yeah, man, I think it's but what I'm talking about is really more about in terms of like the visual and the audio, you know, just like sort of the experience, you know, experiencing the actual event and what's happening on court or on the racetrack. And you know, taking things from that 2023 2003 actually Pacquiao fight to something new, you know, where sweat is flying at you in 3D. And if you've ever watched the immersive, there's a demo that Apple does when you put the Vision Pro on, where you're courtside, and you can also see a view from behind the glass, and to see LeBron James basically elevate and dunk and have that view is actually pretty amazing.
It is,
you know, and I think people, I mean, you are just not going to get that on regular, you know, 2D.
This is where Leonard throws Oculus under the bus.
Yeah, a couple of.
Well, you know, Oculus will eventually get there, but they're again, they were focused so much on gaming. They are now behind on what Apple is doing. And if you watch WWDC 2024, this is where they're going. They're not focusing on gaming. They're focusing on the content, you know, the immersive content. So they're leaning in on immersive video, spatial video, and watch next year. There's going to be a ton of content produced by us, as well as, you know, sports broadcasters, like friggin' Marvel, you know, all the Disney properties,
Here's my hot take for Apple and Vision Pro.
So before you go into that, Rob, just
I gotta go, guys. All right, take care.
Bye.
Have fun.
Wow,
bye.
That just happened.
Just to answer your question on gambling, David. Personally, that gambling doesn't pass my personal firewall. I do not understand the concept of gambling, so I'm probably not the best person to comment on that. But what is clear is that Tom mentioned that F1, has been acquired by Liberty Media recently, and why recently, 10 years ago probably. But and it's clear that there's a willingness to move the sport from kind of this glamour niche, exclusive sport to a broad mass, baseball level type of audience. And I think that in this sense, what I see them is, I see actually the sports becoming a reality show, being much more effective. If you look at the way the rules and the regulations have happened in the past years, there's a lot of emphasis on the battle between Hamilton and Verstappen and all the controversy around the decision and the rules. So this whole aspect of reality showizing, I think, is also probably one dimension, together with gambling probably. But gambling for me is, I just don't understand. So I'm
you know what, Dimitri, as you talk about getting F1 to the masses, all those people and the reality show, you're basically talking about NASCAR, and you're basically talking about, Talladega, and you are Jean Girard and I'm Ricky Bobby.
That's also, I think it's definitely, Dimitri, I think you're a French man. You do know what gambling is. Like, gambling is going in that height of summer to try to take the metro in Paris. That's a gamble. You've gambled. So come on, man.
Yeah, but it's the concept of putting, there's so many things to do with money that just the concept of putting on the table and knowing that I'm going to lose, because this is what gambling is about.
I'm just so excited. I'm excited what I've heard this episode, that we're going to build this whole new company with Vision Pro to do micro gambling and micro bets on the left hook or the whatever driver's and you're gonna do that in a Vision Pro. I think this is exciting stuff because unlike Dimitri, there are billions of people on this planet that love to gamble.
Yeah, I know.
Do they? Yeah, but do they love to gamble, or is it because society is making it easy and enabling it?
Is that a symptom? Is that a symptom?
When I talk to all my friends who were playing baseball, and none of us made it professionally because we were not good enough. I think we understand gambling because it's something that you do since we're little. Hey, I'll bet you I can hit a home run, even though there was no money being transacted. It's almost, at least within baseball, it's part of the language. And I think a large majority of baseball fans place bets for fun, meaning like, hey, one day I went to Vegas and I bet $20, and that was 15 years ago, sort of thing, very, very casually. But also, depending where you live, it could be really difficult to place a bet. Gambling, you don't have a sports book everywhere in your little town like you do back home in Dominican Republic. So the advent of being able to do it from one of these guys with a simple app, I think that's making it more accessible. And I think there's more people that probably wouldn't gamble that are. And the societal challenges would be like, hey, is this thing addicting? And I mean, I think it is, but like if it is, how do you keep the kids from this becoming a problem? I mean, because it will be almost like a health situation if you just literally gamble your rent money away, your tuition money away, your lunch money away. Like that's a problem.
That's very true, and I think you have the point because the way you expressed it is it's challenging versus gambling. The problem is when you start attaching money to it. Because there's nothing wrong in challenging. Oh, I bet I can go faster. But you're not saying I'm going to put money on it. I'm saying, hey, let's compete together and let's see we can do better and let's learn from that. I think society makes it such that if you put money into it, there's kind of this hope that you might win, and this is where the kind of the disease or the addiction and the problem starts.
Yeah. So, do you know what? I completely kind of disagree with gambling as a concept. I can understand it's fun for people, but if you go and look at the bookmakers in the UK, right, they're in the poorest areas next to the booze stores. And I get it from a technology standpoint, the micro betting aspect, like microtransactions in general, like I get it, like I can understand it, but it doesn't make it right, and I actually think that it's hard to know whether people enjoy gambling or it's in desperation of hope to get themselves out of the rut for wherever they are.
Just this one last bet, and it's going to make everything better. Yeah. Well, and if you want to learn about how to make life better for yourself in gambling on baseball, just go next time you're in Vegas, go find Pete Rose sitting at a little card table, signing autographs, trying to be alive and complaining about how he's kicked out of baseball. So there you go, folks. Yeah. That's a sad thing.
You're on
and
mute.
Jan is on mute.
Hey, I was saying sports gambling is a little different though, right? Because the people that are betting on sports feel they have a little bit more understanding because, I mean, they're either like avid baseball fans or football fans or something. And whereas if you go to Vegas, it's really just it's a gamble, right? I mean, it's pure luck. But I think sports gambling, there's a lot of people there that go in it because they feel they have an advantage because they have looked at baseball for the last since they could hold a bat or whatever, right? I don't know if it makes it different from a addictive perspective, but I think it is a different audience.
Yeah, you have more hope because you don't have the rationalization of the math is against you, but it's still too much on the addictive aspect to kind of selling the dreams. By the way, maybe this is an era where AI can completely kill the whole thing because you can probably train some good AI to be the best gambler on every sport that exists. Here is an idea of a startup, Rob.
Well, I mean, perhaps, but the actual. So I think the name is called the odds maker. Back in the day, that used to be a guy. Some that was really into sports, and he's the one writing the spreads, and it's like
exactly
that used to be a person, right? Obviously, that has been mostly automated because Well, because look, I mean, at least in baseball, we have 100 years of data sets, right? It's available. You can literally download it and figure out what team on what day, what was the score of the play. You have all this data that is mined. But to the bit that we're talking about, I think is very different for folks that want to do it again for entertainment. Like, I have disposable income, $20. This will be fun to do with my friends. And if I win, I'll buy dinner because we have extra money. But if I lose, I go on with my life.
Yeah.
Versus, having a problem. And maybe where AI would help would be, some sort of age verification, where in conjunction with a mobile device and maybe the government to verify your ID and the bank, right? Because someone has to hold your money to verify that you're the right age, whatever that is, I know varies by country, but that would be a good place to deploy this so that we don't have, again, we're not putting kids in an addictive risk here.
It's like those wine or whatever liquor websites you go to and it pops up and says, "Are you over 21?" Yes. Okay, I'm in. Oh my gosh.
And it is laughable. And I mean, here we do a really good job of not going into politics, and I'm not, but that's a regulatory rule, Rob. So someone convinced the legislators that was good enough. Are you 18? Yes. Right? Oh, yeah. Great. That's a problem. And we know that regulation is rarely ahead of innovation. So let's leave that one at that.
You're right.
Yeah.
So I got some help. I got some help a few minutes ago. Tom gave us the link for this oldversion.com, oldversion.com. And I clicked on it. And it launched Edge browser on Windows 11. And as soon as I went to that site, some helpfulness popped up from Edge saying, "Would you like a VPN to protect you?"
Don't do it.
Why does it think that's a spyware bad site? I'm sure it's perfectly good, safe software to just download onto your computer and launch. Just start clicking.
And I bet you that in an hour, Rob, you're going to start getting emails or ads for old software.
Yeah, I bet I am. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Just
so
go to
they want to protect you, but they're going to use your information to try to sell you something.
Rob, I want to see your Winamp skin.
Yes.
Yeah.
The good old days. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Did you guys hear in Hong Kong customs, they caught a shipment of, they were lobsters they were a bunch of lobsters, but also about 70 K2200 NVIDIA cards.
Whoa.
Yes.
Smuggling NVIDIA cards. That's where we are.
It has begun. It has begun. I read it twice. I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, what I couldn't figure out was, I mean, obviously it's a supply chain thing, but like, why would you need to smuggle them? Then that means that you cannot buy them new through regular supply chain channels, and they had to come from somewhere. So I think there's a whole market. It's the Silk Road all over again, but instead of high quality black tar heroin, it's going to be a bunch of graphic cards that were being underutilized somewhere and need to find a new home. True story.
Good luck finding a dog breed that can smell NVIDIA chips. So that's what we need now.
They're going to find a way. It's going to happen,
Let's open an animal shelter and start training dogs on how to smell NVIDIA chips.
No, dude, this is where the Boston, the mass robotics yellow robot of death will come in and through some X-ray and machine vision combination. This is a new thing. This is a new market for robotic finding.
I think this is you called it right here. This whole deal about NVIDIA, black market, gray market, gangs. This is like, you're right. It's the new drug. It's the new thing. it's the new hottest item, and people will do whatever they can to get that stuff. That's pretty interesting. It's and then they'll make movies about it. It'll be kind of like Blood Diamonds and stuff like that, you know.
Warlords or whatever.
Something like that. You know, there's going to be counterfeit. There probably already are counterfeit NVIDIA cards, you know, made by somebody else. It looks like it. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. In fact, seizures of fake Blackwell GPUs, that's going to happen. Someone's going to make that stuff. Some of our friends in Shenzhen are listening right now, and they're like, hey, this is a great idea.
Like, hey, we have the outer shells, we have the specs, and we have the weight. Let's just find some pebbles that match the weight of this thing, and let's start shipping, boys. Let's go,
ship, baby, ship. Absolutely.
I mean, remember, we had this with hard drives. You get your hard drive, and like, hey, this thing feels pretty light, and then you open it up, and it's like 2 USB sticks in there. It's happened.
Memory cards, USB memory cards. Yeah, I mean, if you buy outside of the big brands with the right packaging, you don't know what you get.
Yeah. Another gamble. That's also gambling.
Yeah. Does anybody remember how much money they used to have to pay for the smallest possible hard drives? Like, if any of you here were alive in the 1990s, for instance, maybe. It's probably not, because we're all Gen Zers on the show.
I do. I had some of the early digital professional bodies, digital photography professional bodies, and they were using these IBM 1 gigabyte hard drives, the tiny little one that at the side of a card. Yeah,
that's advanced technology. I was thinking of, I got my 250 meg hard drive, that I paid $1,000 for, or something like that. Or I remember, because I'm really old, I was one of those few people who tried out and played around with OS2 after the divorce between Microsoft and IBM. And I remember an NT was going to be coming along, and you really need more RAM. And I remember spending $800 to get 16 megabytes of RAM on my PC.
Wow.
Just think about that.
Well, that was
a 10 megabyte hard drive.
That was new. The mini computer in the first company I worked for, we upgraded the memory of 1 megabyte. It was a prime computer. It was $15K.
Yeah. Think about that today. Today,
beef somewhere, it's this size.
Today, you would say that's an embedded device. You would say that's a microcontroller.
1 megabyte is a toothbrush.
Exactly. But back
1
then,
megabyte is a toothbrush.
Back then, you spent $15,000 to get it, and it seemed like a miracle.
Yeah. Also, memory cards was also a good example of Moore's law in terms of storage and pricing. Because I remember, I think every digital camera brand had its own branded memory card, including Sony, and Sony's was proprietary, right? You couldn't take Sony and put into a Canon or Nikon, right? But it was one of those spaces that, in a good thing for consumers, when everyone just started making aftermarket memory cards, and then the prices started, coming down. Like every 6 months was there. It is. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
It's actually a Lexar, but this is the Sony proprietary format.
What was it called? Like Memory Stick Pro, right?
Memory stick, just memory stick.
Memory stick. Yeah, I remember that.
Could only fit in a Sony camera.
Yeah,
that was it. And anyway, I spent a lot of money at Best Buy, Circuit City, and Radio Shack buying these things. And glad they're not expensive anymore, because now we have like everything here.
Yeah, Sony was doing a good job of trying to lock you into things. That takes you back to VHS and Betamax, takes you to HD DVD versus Blu-ray. All the format wars and walled gardens on formats and locking you in. And so you're right. Sony gave it, because Sony tried to use their heft, their power in the market to get people on board with their stuff.
But it's funny because I think we talked about this on the show, but my first digital camera was the Sony Mavica. which actually used a 3.5-inch floppy. So you could say, oh yeah, they went into kind of standard stuff. But the battery was a camcorder battery that was proprietary to Sony. So they found a way to put something proprietary into it.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So what's going on?
This will always happen when, we have another business unit that's making a widget that can fit another widget, and the P&L is already outlined. I mean, you're going to buy from me. You're going to buy from within. It keeps biting us. But anyway,
you kind of, it's just, you think back to when Toshiba came out with their little tiny 1 gig drives that are tiny enough, and Steve Jobs saw that and said, I'm buying all of them from you, and I'm going to make a music player so you can do 1,000 songs in your pocket. Or if you, and also in the same vein, and Pete and I talk about it on our really uppity famous documentary, Windows Phone, WTF. We talk about, actually next episode, when we have Jay Allard, we're going to talk about the Zune and the Ken. But in the Zune, it was the same kind of thing. It was Toshiba. Toshiba had a device called Gigabeats. And anyway, the very first Zune was essentially a Toshiba Gigabeats, but we're from Microsoft and it's brown. I don't know. You never know what people are going to do to try to get a product off the launch pad.
Yeah, the Zoom was an interesting product.
It was. Now it's a punchline on South Park, So, all right. Anybody have anything else interesting to say? We're really running out of gas today, aren't we?
Yeah.
Free DOS. Keep using. I've been seeing a lot of articles on free DOS. Someone is still contributing to that. So if you want to boot up DOS on your brand new computer, there you go.
Is it better than DOSBox?
Probably not. I love DOSBox.
Yeah.
That's how I run all my old DOS games.
Yeah, it runs on Mac as well. So I have one, of course.
Absolutely. DOSBox is great. Oh, actually, can I share my screen? Maybe. This is cool because then this tells you exactly where I am. We're gonna run.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
You should start to be afraid. All right. Where is my little virtual machine here from Oracle VirtualBox? I'm going to launch VirtualBox here. And then inside, all right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Be very afraid. Yeah.
Well, you get a t-shirt with NASA on it, so.
That's true.
Yeah, but he got the gift.
Look, I'm going to launch OS 2 2.1.
Oh my goodness.
We're powering that VM up. Yeah, whatever. Here we go. Come on. Give me some OS 2. You can do it. There we go.
Wow.
Oh, it's much faster than the old one.
Yes. Absolutely. Look at that, folks.
Wow.
Yep. There you go. OS 2 2.1.
Last of the past.
Thank you for making us feel very old, at least some of us.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that, the 248 years ago, this is where the Declaration of Independence was written, in OS 2.
In OS 2.
Happy birthday, America.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if anybody who remembers, so this is like when after the divorce, and so IBM kept going with OS 2 and Microsoft went down the NT route. But you can see Windows programs win OS 2. The code was in here, and what part of the theme for OS 2 was like the first 32-bit operating system to run on a normal Intel, PC, and IBM was saying a better DOS than DOS and a better Windows than Windows, because it could launch, because it had crash protection, preemptive multitasking. Microsoft didn't have that at the time. Anyway, OS 2 could have been the winner, except for bad marketing from IBM. The fact that you had in as early as 91, 92, a 32-bit operating system with a graphical interface running all kinds of stuff. They blew it,
But it was only running on an IBM computer, right?
No, it runs on any Intel PC.
Yeah, I think it was
At
not
the
just
time, though? When they released it?
We could do a whole episode on that, but I think it was more than just bad marketing. It was also the fact that they didn't have access to the same distribution network that Microsoft already had.
So
people tend to forget that.
The other you were talking about only on IBM hardware. You'll remember in the 80s, IBM realized the horse was out of the barn on clone computers. And so you had Compaq and Dell and everybody else, HP, making PCs. And they're like, oh, we got to stop that. And so they came up with something called microchannel, which was a new bus architecture. And they came up with PS2 PCs running microchannel. That's where you got the PS2 mouse connector, PS2 keyboard, and OS2 running on a PS2. And IBM thought that was how they were going to reclose the market to have something kind of closer to like the Macintosh, maybe. But maybe it was too late. It didn't work. Standardized.
Well, and also the 3 or 5 also grouped together and made an alternative, so they already had power. So
Compaq got together with Dell and HP and all the other ones and came up with a compatible. That was the funny thing. If you watch any of these documentaries, IBM comes out with this new architecture, and then guess what? It couldn't run some of their own software. It was incompatible. And so there was all these big companies running all this IBM software or other software for DOS to run their business, and the PS2 wouldn't even run it. So anyway, with that, folks, I know you didn't want to see the OS2 thing. You're probably going to have nightmares tonight. I apologize. Anywho, thanks so much for joining us on this brilliant episode live from London. Thank you, Tom, for making this happen for us with your satellite relay that you put up for us to make this happen. This is great. I really appreciate that. Thanks for dropping by. Come check us out at iotcoffeetalk.com. Listen to us wherever you get podcasts. Yes, get some merch. IoT Coffee Talk merch is the hottest thing. You want to be seen this summer out on the street wearing that merch. And what do you do when you buy that merch? You help elevate our kids. That digital divide you heard about. Well, we're focused on kids. Let's get them laptops and connectivity so they can go to school and learn some stuff, right? We're going to learn you something, kids. Anyway, we're here to help. That's the whole reason for this. Much love to everyone, and we will see you next week.
Happy birthday, America.
Happy 4th of July, guys.
I think it sounds better if Tom says that.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, America, for tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the celebrations.
I'm French. I have two reasons to do it. So because you have France and I live in the US. So happy 4th of July.
Viva la
Happy
France.
4th of July.
Yes.
Viva
Adios. Viva liberté.